Good morning. I'm Melanie Willoughby, and I'm the Chief Government Officer for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, and I'd like to welcome everyone here this morning to our Meet the Decision Makers. Today is the third in our Fall Infrastructure Series, and we will be discussing the state's utility needs today. We will explore the cost to maintain and upgrade this vital infrastructure and what the risks are if we don't. And we are joined today by Rick Morose, the President of the Board of Public Utilities. We're very happy to have him with us today. And then after Rick speaks, we'll have some questions. And then we'll present a panel discussing the scope of the problem and the projects that are in the pipeline aimed at meeting the needs of our infrastructure. But before I begin, I would like to offer special thanks to the people who make our programs possible, our sponsors. So first we have our partner sponsor, NJM Insurance Group. We also have our premier sponsors, AT&T, Connell Foley, and Verizon. Our diamond sponsor is Ogletree Deacons, and we also have our grand sponsors, IBEW Local 102, and we also have Jersey Central Power and Light Company, a First Energy company, New Jersey Resources, and South Jersey Industries. And finally, our event sponsor is Phillips 66, the Bayway Refinery. So please join me in a round of applause for all of our sponsors. So now, I'd like to get to our main attraction and introduce the President of the State Board of Public Utilities, Rick Morose. President Morose is a member of the Electricity Committee for the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, NARUC, which deliberates on policy recommendations and emerging issues, as well as best practices in regulatory policies in the electric generation, transmission, and distribution industries. And this is important because this committee's deliberations are very important here in New Jersey, especially as we update our energy master plan and continue to plan for infrastructure resiliency. President Morose continues a long and distinguished career in legal affairs and public service. Before becoming president of the BPU, he worked in private practice as a lawyer and lobbyist, as the managing director of Archer Public Affairs in Trenton, New Jersey, and of counsel to Archer and Greiner. I'd now like to introduce President Morose.
Thank you, Melanie. It's good to see you. It's good to be here with BIA. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces. A number of us in and around this industry have been spending a lot of time together, because I often see the companies that are represented here. Those that will be on your panel later on this morning, so it's always good to see you. In many ways, it seems like kind of old home week here, because I'll be spending time as the week goes on in other events, I know, with some of you as well. But it's good to be here with BIA. I want to thank BIA for the opportunity to come and speak. I want to specifically thank Michelle Sikirka, who is a longtime friend, and I know is providing great leadership along with Melanie and everyone else here at BIA. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here this morning. And I'm sorry that Michelle couldn't be here this morning with us. I know that we originally had another date for my opportunity to be here, but this probably works out well, given that you're doing a panel today in this session of Meet the Decision Makers. So I guess I am a decision maker in this world of an opportunity that Governor Christie provided to me a little over a year ago. And I'm very thankful to him for him having given me the opportunity. And when he asked me to do this, I think I've told you the story. He said to me, look, you know this industry. And as many of you know, I've been around these issues for some time. That can be good and that can be bad, because many times when I delve into an issue, people assume I do know things, but I tell people at the board, don't assume I know, because I need to understand this as well as any other person, any other customer, any other ratepayer in the state. So when we approach issues, assume I don't know anything, and of course I've been accused of a lot of things, including not knowing what I'm talking about. But since I do know some of these issues, I was also told that in the last year, I've done a fairly good job at the Board of Public Utilities because I knew the right questions to ask, and that's probably half the battle. The opportunity for me to come here today, though, is good timing. And I want to do three things today. I want to reflect a little bit and provide you a few observations about the way I and the governor and this administration see the energy and utility sector, its importance to New Jersey and the economy. I know those are issues specifically that Sarah and Chuck and Jim and Tony are going to be talking about later in terms of the importance of the industry and investment in New Jersey. And it's that backdrop that is very compelling to the governor, to this administration, and to me as the president of the board as we deal with decisions in and around this industry. There are two other areas that I want to touch on and make some comments. And the first is the Clean Power Plan. Those of you that have a keen interest in it know that the administration last week made a filing along with 23 other states to challenge the Clean Power Plan. And I want to just highlight for you the reasons why we feel that the Clean Power Plan has certain defects and what the administration's position is, which can often be misinformed. And the last is to give you an overview of where we are with the Energy Master Plan. And I know that's something that most of you are probably very interested in. So first, let me just mention that, as I said, the issues in and around the economic impact, the importance of the utility, I mean all of the utility and energy sectors in the state are compelling. This governor has said that an overriding perspective and goal of his and this administration is to grow the economy in this state and ensure that New Jersey remains a great place to live, work, and do business, something that all of you are most interested in, and the members of the BIA. And the governor has, as you know, continued to advocate for policies or issues, whether it's legislation or the reduction in regulation, that can help foster that growth. And that means working together with organizations like BIA to try and find those kinds of solutions. But against this, the backdrop of this really is, for me, for this administration, for the governor, to consider the economy and what it looks like. Now, last week we got some additional good news, one that many of you probably followed, which is that unemployment claims are down. The number of continuing unemployment claims for the week ending October 10th fell to the lowest level since December of 2000. The Garden State had 20,200 additional jobs in August and September. So good news about what's happening with this economy in New Jersey. It is, however, for me, a pleasure to be working in and around an industry that is a significant place that invests in this economy. So it's worth me, for myself, for my colleagues at the board, for all of you that are in and around this industry, to reinforce every once in a while what the impact is of the businesses around this industry. So while there are not comprehensive facts and figures on jobs and the economic impact of the entire spectrum of the energy and utility industry, which, by the way, I've asked our board staff to do, because there's not one single source we have that we can go to find all of the data from generation to distribution to the water industry to renewable energy investment, but I can give you some facts and figures that are compelling. So we turn to our friends at the New Jersey Utilities Association, and they do keep track of the numbers for the regulated companies, which, as you know, serve significant number of people in this state. 7 million residential customers and 1 million non-residential customers. They employ 28,000 people and have a payroll of $2.5 billion. New Jersey's investor-owned utilities own and operate physical infrastructure that is valued at more than $37 billion. They contribute about $837 million in annual revenues to local and state governments through gross receipts tax, corporate business tax, and property and excise taxes. The investor-owned utilities have been making capital expenditures in New Jersey averaging more than $4.4 billion a year, investments that clearly strengthen this economy. Now, those numbers don't account for the investment that has been made or continues to be made in the baseload power generation community. And most of you know that in this state, there are several new large baseload generation facilities being constructed or coming online, and recently some new ones also being announced by some of the companies here in the state for new investment. And I can tell you and share with you that we have expressions of interest from other power companies that want to build generation in the state. Those numbers don't account for the significant investments that have been made in this state over a number of years in renewable energy or even energy efficiency, which come to somewhere in the area of about $3 billion over the last 10 years in investments. Those numbers don't account for the secondary impact of all of that investment. And I can tell you, as we look at the numbers for the Energy Master Plan, we also are keeping track, as you all might, on the additional investments the companies have made in resiliency efforts. Infrastructure investments, resiliency investments in the state are approaching the $1 trillion mark over a period of years. So by any standard, the utilities' financial contributions to the state's economy are substantial. When we look at investments, they're coupled with the company's critical missions for reliability. However, it is my responsibility, along with my colleagues at the board, to continue to look at the benefits of these investments, the costs of them, and how they impact the ratepayers. Those are responsibilities that are mine to balance those issues. However, it is clear with this backdrop that this industry is significant, and we're very mindful of that. As the president of the BPU, I also have another specific role that is part and parcel of a series of statutory responsibilities or privileges, which I feel they are, is to be the chief energy officer. And to that extent, I have been very involved, first, as the chair of the committee that will update the 2011 Energy Master Plan, and secondly, being involved with the administration, with my colleague at the DEP, Bob Martin, to deal with issues such as the Clean Power Plan. So let me, for a moment, give you some thoughts and clarify for you our perspective in and around the Clean Power Plan. And I guess it was just over a year ago that I became president and stepped into this role, and one of the first things that I had to do was sit down with Bob Martin and understand the state's perspective on the impending promulgation of the Clean Power Plan rules. And at the time, we did not know what the final rule would look like. Those of you who have followed this issue know that the Clean Power Plan rules are, in many respects, similar to what was proposed, but in some respects, drastically different. Regardless, they provide several significant challenges to New Jersey. And I want to clarify for these issues. As I indicated, and again, those who follow it know, last week the state did file, joined a number of other states. And for me, as the person responsible in this state to be, first, as I said, for lack of a better term, the chief energy officer, and secondly, the chairman of the committee that will advance the state's energy master plan, which we're in that process. I find the promulgation of the Clean Power Plan rules to infringe upon our responsibilities in this state. Specifically, the Clean Power Plan, a promulgation of a federal agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, is providing an overreach which will really require state officials like me or those in other states to take certain actions. So first and foremost, fundamentally, for me, in my role, which I take my responsibility quite seriously, the federal government, a federal agency, cannot otherwise direct me to act in my capacity as the Chief Energy Officer. Bob Martin, equally as much, cannot be directed by the EPA, except where there is specific authority to take certain actions that are in his portfolio. And that is the fundamental concern that we have raised and joined other states, is an overreach by federal agencies to otherwise direct state officials to how they will conduct their jobs in their capacities. I'll share with you briefly a very specific illustration in my mind of why this is of concern. I recently attended, some of you were there, a conference at OPSI, which is the organization of states that are in the PJM territory. And there was a panel on the implementation of the Clean Power Plan. And one of the presenters, who was, by the way, a proponent of the Clean Power Plan, and I don't take any, I have no concern about that. There are certainly people that believe that the Clean Power Plan should proceed as it is. His comment, though, was to say to a host of us that are state regulators, his comment was, you, state officials, as regulators, will have to adopt regulations or rules to have to comply with the plan. Or you're going to have to get your legislators to adopt laws. I didn't say this to him, but I said, I'd love to see him come and give that speech to either Chris Christie, Steve Sweeney, or Vinnie Prieto. So it's not just me. It's not just me in my capacity. It's not just Bob Martin. It is the state of New Jersey, and I would submit to you that this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue of the ability of the federal government to impose upon state officials what is or is not their obligations. It's a fundamental challenge that we have made to the Clean Power Plan. That is first and foremost. There are other concerns that we have raised in our filings, not the least of which is, as I said before, we believe that New Jersey has invested about $3.2 billion in energy efficiency and renewable energy in the state over the last decade. The Clean Power Plan does not account for that. It does not account, as many of you know, for the investments that have been made over the years in nuclear energy, of which almost 50% of the generation in New Jersey comes from. And beyond that, and this is where sometimes the debate does get lost, are what could be the incremental costs of having to comply with the Clean Power Plan. And people might say, well, it's just some additional costs and we'll have to bear that. And I understand that argument. But what it does do, it directs the state, this state and other states, to have to comply and implement those plans and determine what those costs will be. And as you know, as I said earlier, and as people come to me all the time, I need to, in my capacity, as the president of the board and as one of 5 commissioners, deal with not only implementation of regulations or matters that come to us from companies that are the regulated utilities or the generation costs, and we need to balance those. We need to determine what's an appropriate cost for the customer to bear. So we have been saddled with these requirements that a federal agency is imposing on a state official, not only, as I mentioned, in what we believe to be our appropriate authority as a state official, but also then directing us to implement additional costs which we have no latitude to consider. So those are some parameters just to clarify in case anyone has not understood why this administration, why Bob Martin and our colleagues and the governor have indeed filed a challenge to the Clean Power Plan. So when I come here under the heading of being a decision maker, I have to wonder whether a rule like that will really permit me to continue to do my job. So it's in that context of the seriousness, which I take my role to be also, as I said, Chief Energy Officer of the state, to deal with the issues in and around the Energy Master Plan. And most of you know that we've been working to update the plan, so let me now make some specific comments about that. We come at the Energy Master Plan first as an update to the 2011 EMP, which was a strategic vision for the use, management, and development of energy in New Jersey. And there were 5 overarching goals and 31 specific recommendations to the 2011 plan. The 5 overarching goals were to drive down the cost of energy for all consumers, promote a diverse portfolio in new, clean, in-state generation, reward energy efficiency and energy conservation, and reduce demand. Capitalize on emerging technologies for transportation of power production, and maintain support for the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. The update is intended to provide adjustments to the 31 recommendations in light of some changed circumstances. I might mention that from that conference I attended a few weeks ago, Terry Boston from PJM used a quote that I think is probably apropos here as well, because when you look back to the 2008 Energy Master Plan, circumstances have changed dramatically between 2008 and 2011 and 2015. And the quote that Terry Boston from PJM used was a Yogi Berra quote, which was that the future ain't what it used to be. Think about that. And it's not. Circumstances have changed dramatically since 2008. Cost of gas has decreased significantly and will continue to do so as long as supply is there. By 2011, the energy landscape changed significantly, and it changed here. Now, as you know, most of you know, the 2011 plan since the 2011 plan, the state has suffered tremendously from storms like Superstorm Sandy. And the governor has made it a priority to improve energy resiliency and emergency preparedness as a response. So we will and are focusing on an update, a whole new section that will focus on energy resiliency and investments for preparedness, that is both preparedness for weather events or other events. Now, from the beginning, and I think up front, it has been my position as the chairman of the committee to review the Energy Master Plan that the EMP would be updated along with an update on the progress that we've had for those 5 overarching goals and 31 specific recommendations. So the exercise that we've undertaken over the last 6 months has been not to rewrite the Energy Master Plan, but to update it. We have held 3 public hearings, we have received public comment, we've had 82 individual organizations or institutions provide comments with 1,093 specific comments that have been made. And shortly, the committee will finish its work in updating that 2011 plan, and we will issue the update for review. Now, while most of the comments that were submitted have been in regard to these issues, some have not been specifically related to energy issues. So certainly some comments regarding the process of or the programs warrant future discussion, and we will not dismiss any of them. However, many of the comments are not consistent with an approach to update the 2011 plan. And I would say that it should be commented, and I've reminded people that our effort is to update the plan, not to rewrite it, and that while energy and the environment are intertwined, the energy component is broader than just environmental issues. And while we must include a balance of all these issues, we really need to look at the reasonableness and equal access of energy to all customers, residential and commercial and industrial. So where are we with the ENPM? What's the status? So as we've undertaken our review, we've made good progress towards those 31 specific recommendations in the 2011 plan. Overall, New Jersey has lower energy costs while at the same time advancing energy efficiency, demand and response, and renewable energy. The state's fallen from a very high-cost energy state into a range that falls within the national average for total energy costs, including electricity, natural gas, fuel oil, and gasoline. Since the issuance of the 2011 plan, electricity prices in New Jersey have fallen in the past by up to 8%. And this year, though there are additional costs, are 4% less. This is for residents or small businesses. And for large businesses that shop for their electricity, it's probably even more. The state's dropped from having the fourth highest electricity cost in the nation to 10th. So this is progress, but of course it's not enough. We need to continue to look at measures to continue to reduce those costs. The current vibrant and robust natural gas infrastructure in New Jersey has allowed the people of this state and businesses to take advantage of low natural gas prices. Now, it's helped to moderate energy prices overall in New Jersey, and it has the potential to increase economic impact and economic development in this state. So today, New Jersey's natural gas prices are among the lowest in the country. Prices in our state were the 17th highest in 2011. Today, we rank among the 4 least expensive states in the country. That's a huge decrease that was anticipated in 2011, and it has been critical to successfully reduce the cost of electricity and improving the environmental performance of New Jersey's electric generation. So the state's commitment to actively promote new electric natural gas generation and enhance the expansion of natural gas transmission and distribution systems has helped in all of these costs. Over the past several years, New Jersey's benefited from the enhancement of the expansion of the natural gas transmission and distribution systems. Expanding and upgrading natural gas interstate and intrastate pipelines helps to further lower these overall costs to New Jersey's homeowners and to businesses, and to reduce emissions. The BPU's approved almost $1 billion of investments for New Jersey's gas utility infrastructure for upgrades and mitigation. And an additional $280 million in proposed projects are now pending in front of the board. Now looking beyond this, looking beyond natural gas, we look at the word energy, and it can encompass a whole spectrum. It includes electricity and sources that generate it, fuels used for heating and industrial processing, and fuels used for transportation. And although retail electricity prices range higher relative to other states, the latest data from the United States Energy Information Agency shows that the average New Jersey energy customer has lower all energy costs than most of the country when combining the cost of electricity, natural gas, and gasoline. The fact is, when viewed from the perspective of the state energy policy comprehensively, we can assist the state in the overall economic development that's so important to this state, to the economy, and creating jobs. Now, further reductions in the cost of energy, especially electricity, will help increase competitiveness. In addition to lower cost of energy, the state's electric energy resources are diverse and clean. New Jersey's recently ranked among the 5 states with the lowest emissions for electric generation, despite being the 22nd largest electricity generating state. This is a direct result of the state's current resource mix of nuclear, natural gas, and renewables. New Jersey continues to meet its renewable energy portfolio standard, as nearly 15% of electricity supplied comes from renewable sources, with solar accounting for almost 3% of in-state generation. New Jersey has also had success in reducing energy use through its support of demand reduction and energy efficiency programs and technologies. New and changing technologies need to be continue to be introduced to continue growth in the implementation of this industry in energy efficiency technologies. And that market is still growing, and we still encourage the maturity of that market. Now, there are a few issues that I believe that BIA would be interested to know where we might be going. And the 2011 plan had a series of specific recommendations, as you may know, not just on in-state generation, but on issues such as distributed energy resources. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about microgrids, or the continued investment in the infrastructure that will help and assist in being the backbone for more distributed generation. Also, the 2011 plan did speak to reliability and matters such as those which have been implicated since 2011, and the new sections of the plan will focus on issues such as our Energy Resilience Bank or other distributed energy resource investments and upgrades that are being made by the companies, the electric distribution companies and the gas distribution companies, for those resiliency efforts. And there are other areas such as transportation. And one of the areas that we are focusing on is how to enhance the efficiencies as well as reductions in emissions that come with an enhanced and more comprehensive program on alternative fuel vehicles. The update should be issued very soon. So it asks that you stay informed and keep a watch. And we will certainly be back to inform BIA and its members of the timetable of when the update will be issued. So I'd like to think that you would know from just my comments or you following our work that this administration and we at the board and I have been working hard to confront the challenges that we have in New Jersey, but that at the same time, I would hope that you would share the opinion that we've come to in the committee to update the Energy Master Plan, that even with these challenges, we're making progress. And it's in that spirit of working together, as this administration has done with BIA and its members over the years, that we will continue to make progress by working together and by discussing issues such as you're doing here today with your program on energy infrastructure investment. So I want to thank you. Thank you for having me again, and look forward to being back with you, but also to continue to work with BIA and your members to keep New Jersey being a place that's competitive, growing the economy, creating jobs, and making it a great place to live and to have a business. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Rick. We are now going to take questions from the audience. So I'd like to start over here with Michael Egginton from the State Chamber.
Rick, just to follow up on the Clean Power Plan, as you know, I served on the Clean Air Council at DEP advisory body, and good friend Sarah Wood serves with me, as well as Scott Ross attends the monthly meetings. Sarah just got appointed to vice chair. As you know, we have a public hearing every April, so we're going to do Clean Power Plan impact on New Jersey, right, Sarah? So just to reinforce what you laid out, we certainly would like to engage you in the agency, have representatives of BPU come to that hearing. I'll get you the date in April, just to lay it out, because obviously, you know, our industrial stationary sources have done a great job in, you know, cleaning the air, and should be more of a focus on mobile sources, as you point out. But any reinforcement and guidance that you can give us at that hearing. And as you know, we then put a report together that we deliver in July to Bob Martin, and certainly would like to deliver it to you as well. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And let me just say, you know, we'd be pleased to participate. And just to clarify, of course, the way in this, in the state of New Jersey, as by the way is the case in most states, the, if you will, the official spokesperson, the person who is responsible to make filings on the Clean Power Plan is the air quality regulator, and that is Bob Martin. So Bob is actually the party in interest to file the challenge as the DEP commissioner. But the issues I outlined for you, and if you were to go to the documents, sort of hyper-technical thing, in the filing is a certification on issues that he has written, and there's a certification that I have written as the president of EPU that impact the issues I outlined for you. So we have a role. In fact, I kidded Bob. I said, you know, I feel pretty strongly about this, that, you know, they're infringing on my job as the BPU president. So if you don't file, Bob, I'm going to sue you. He was already there. He had already been through the issues. But he is, the DEP is the responsible agency to make the filing. Therefore, Bob Martin is the lead on it. And you'll hear him talking about the Clean Power Plan very similarly as I have done today in forums like this, and I'm sure in forums like with the council.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Well, you obviously have answered every single solitary one.
And if I haven't, then you know where I am.
Exactly. But let's give him another round.